Coming up, we have stories about workplace disputes, suspected gold diggers, non-helpful husbands, Photoshop faux pas, car buying disagreements, mother-daughter trips gone bad, career day disasters and cake stories, and a shitty story. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another Reddit story for you. This one comes from the Dusty Thunder subreddit and is titled, Will I Be the Astronaut If I Don't Work at the Office Because of My Stepdaughter? I, 33 female, have been married to my husband, 43 male, for 3 years now, together for 5 years. His daughter, 22 female, has hated me since day one. For context, I've never once tried to mother her, and I've only tried to be a supportive adult. In the beginning, I tried everything to extend an olive branch. I financed a car for her in my name, and I added her as an authorized user on my credit cards to help establish her credit after she turned 18. No matter what I did, there was always open hostility and blaming me for anything that went wrong in her life. She gets pulled over for a DUI. It's my fault because I must have called the cops on her and told them. She loses something. It's my fault because I must have stolen it from her. The examples are endless. It got to the point where she told my husband that he had to choose between us, and when my husband stood by my side, she didn't attend our wedding and had no contact with us for a year and a half. She resumed contact when she wanted his help, but it was always with the caveat that I was not around. She throws fits whenever I am involved, even if it's as simple as we invite her to dinner. She's always asking for money since resuming contact, since she refuses to hold a job. He ended up paying for her rent, gas, groceries, and fund money for over a year. Well, he finally cut her off financially and only gave her the opportunity to earn money by cleaning our office. He started the business and I worked with him. We had previously closed the office down and went full remote, but we recently opened a new office and he's hired his daughter to do the cleaning, which was supposed to be during business hours, a set day each week. I was planning on doing hybrid work and taking an office, but I recently learned that he's going to let her have a key and come in when she'd like, unsupervised. I was extremely uncomfortable with the thought of her having any unsupervised access to any space that I call my own, considering her continued hostility towards me. Will I be the astronaut if I tell my husband that if she's allowed to clean unsupervised, then I will stick with working fully remote? Edit to add more context, her mom and dad were together for 16 years but had been divorced for 3 years before I met my husband. She was originally no contact with her mom, but then chose to go between her parents to get to be able to do what she wanted. She dropped out of high school in 10th grade and hasn't even tried for her GED. Mom has been married for 4 years and together with her husband for 5 years, and they have 2-year-old twin girls together. Also, I don't want to work in the office since I would be worried about what she possibly could do to anything that I leave there, as she's been pretty vindictive in the past. There's definitely a risk involved here. The question is, will I be the astronaut if I don't work at the office because of my stepdaughter? There's enough of a precedent there for you to have concern. And I think as we talk about these things in the past, with past stories, even recent ones, it is a worry or concern without precedent, maybe unwarranted, but there is enough precedent here to have just cause for being nervous about it. She could put a camera up to make sure that her stuff was at least monitored. Not to say that she could just unplug that and then mess with something, right? There's enough just cause here to be nervous about it. Now, the fact that the agreement went from this is going to happen during business hours on a set day each week to here's a key, do whatever you want, you clearly responsible human being, is a faux pas on dad's part here. It is why dad caved and let that happen. I'm not sure. Dad also seems like he's, out of the two of them, he's obviously the enabler. Like there's got to be some structure and there's got to be freedom. Respect and freedom are two things that you have to earn here, right? Respect and trust. Maybe trust instead of freedom is the word that I need to use. Trust is earned. Respect is earned. And I would say if she can handle starting with other people there for X amount of time without something happening, then yeah, she gains the trust to be able to do it at her leisure, but they're not there yet. And dad's just jumping straight into it and giving her too much rope. There's too much rope here. And I don't understand. Obviously, none of us understand the hostility towards OP here because she, as far as we know, hasn't done anything. The daughter just found a scapegoat. and it sounds like has always had a scapegoat, and once OP entered the picture, she became the primary target. The Eye of Sauron turned its gaze upon her and has just kind of kept it there. Even though she has financed a car for her and added her to the credit cards, she did financial things to try to help her. I don't know how much like true bonding time tried to happen here, but it sounded like she had a lot of problems even before OP entered the picture here. So she's had problems. It's Candy Thunder. If I was uncomfortable at a business I own, then I would remove what makes me uncomfortable. Yeah, for sure. And if you don't trust someone to be there, there's a lot more to worry about than just your personal stuff that you leave behind here, OP. I understand the hostility you feel like would be pointed towards you, but what else is kept in that office environment? I'd be concerned generally. So we're NTA here. You would not be the astronaut if you don't work at the office because of your stepdaughter. There are obvious reservations there based on the precedent of past hostility. No, you're not the astronaut for that. I do think it's worth a conversation, and it's worth some questions to your spouse here, OP, to say, hey, why did you just completely disregard the agreement about when she was going to work and give her so much trust when she clearly hasn't earned it? Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder once again with another Reddit story for you, and this one is from the AITA subreddit. Am I the astronaut for telling my husband's kids how broke he was when we met after they insinuated I was a gold digger? I, 38 female, have been married to my husband, Rob, 52 male, for 4 years now. My husband's late wife died 1 year before we met, and we dated for 2 years before marriage. He has 2 kids, 28 Madison and 26 Brett. Note, I am not calling them my stepkids because they explicitly told me I am not their stepmom, just their dad's wife. I didn't play a part in raising them, so I'm okay with that. It's always been tense between us. I've tried my best to be kind to them and have been generous where I can be, but they are very cold with me. Being a child of divorce, I can partially relate to a parent moving on, so I try not to force anything. Madison recently got engaged and we are excited about it. Everyone was over recently and she asked about a wedding budget from us, and Rob told her he was able to contribute $10K. She has bigger hopes for her wedding than this, so she was upset and kept asking for more. I'm red flagging that. Rob, however, is still working hard on building his savings back up. Before his late wife died, he basically wiped out his cash savings, had to cash out his 401k, and even took a small mortgage on his house to cover medical costs, as well as life expenses since he had to cut back on working. Eventually, he had to drop that job for a more flexible but lower paying one. So this 10K is actually a really generous gift from him. Rob went to run an errand, and it was just me and his kids. Madison then asked me if I'm going to give any in addition to what her dad was giving. After making it explicitly clear that they want nothing to do with her, I told her we're a marital unit, and that's what we discussed together as a reasonable amount to contribute. She then said, I should have known. Obviously, you married an older man for what he had, not for what you could give. And more red flags. I knew she didn't like me, but this is the most flat out rude thing she has ever said. I kind of lost it and said, excuse me? Who do you think has been paying the second mortgage your dad took out to pay his debts? The truth of the matter is I make more than her father by a large margin. I have no debt. I've been paying 70% of the household bills the whole time we've been married. The 10K we're giving her is available because I've been able to subsidize her father's living expenses for the last few years. I made it clear that not only am I not a gold digger, but I'm also literally wealthier than my older husband. She called me stuck up after this and stormed out. And then she called her dad later and said that I told her that I blamed her mother for being sick and for her not having a better wedding budget. What? I told him what happened and he was mad at her, but also said I shouldn't have shared his financial details with his kids. Was I wrong? So the question here was, am I the astronaut for telling my husband's kids how broke he was when we met after they insinuated I was a gold digger? I really appreciate how OP here said, a lot of OPs in this case would say just, am I the astronaut for telling my husband's kids how broke he was when we met? The context of saying after they insinuated I was a gold digger is important because it tells us the trigger for the action here. It is the trigger. It is, she didn't just outright share this information. She didn't just blurt it out. This was a response to an accusation. A response to an accusation. A response to the daughter calling her a gold digger after this selfish little shit, this greedy, selfish little shit. There's the hypocrisy of it. And that's the best part of this whole damn thing. She is so greedy that she gets pissed off about there only being 10K available and then has the cojones to call somebody else a gold digger. OP, your stepdaughter's a bizzo, and you're going to get blamed for anything no matter what. This kind of flows into the story we just talked about. So she needs a scapegoat right here. But to fabricate this lie and say that you blamed her mom for being sick and that's why she doesn't have a bigger wedding budget that takes that to a whole new level, right? That is not just her being shitty and greedy and a hypocrite. Now she's making shit up to try to force a wedge between the two of you. Not really thinking about it, because guess what? If she successfully drove a wedge between you and your husband would have even less to contribute to the wedding. She's not thinking about that. She's not thinking about that at all. She's just pissed and lashing out at this point. That's it. She's just lashing out. Bizzo. She's a bizzo. And you know, she's probably, if she's not already at ASCOM 1, the daughter, she's climbing up that way quick. Completely ungrateful. Yeah. Blatant disrespect. Daughter, I'll at least give you this. Sorry. You can't join our club. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with another Reddit story for you. Actually, this one isn't from Reddit. This one is a follower-submitted story direct to us. You only will hear it right here, I think. This one is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Losing My Shit on My Coworkers After They Kept Replacing Items in My Office with Cake? I mean, I don't think I would be that upset unless the items they were taking and replacing were vital or expensive. You know, but cake is cake. I, male 47, am losing my mind. For the past couple months, my coworkers have been pranking me. It started after my mate showed me a video of people choosing which items were cake and which were real. I have seen those. Some of them are hilarious. The ones that look really, really bad. I thought it was funny then. So comes the weekend and the following Monday, I sit down at my desk and reach for what I think is my mouse. It was soft. The cord was gone. You guessed it. Cake. They caked my mouse. Hilarious. I'm pretty much already over it at this point, but I gave my mate props for the effort. He swore up and down it wasn't him. My real mouse was in my drawer. The following week, they did the same thing with my keyboard. They made a cake that looked like my freaking keyboard. After a few moments of staring at it, you could definitely see that it was cake, but at first glance and in passing, it looks real. I was frustrated and asked where my keyboard was. My mate thought this was hysterical, but once again claimed he was innocent. I asked around. None of my coworkers would own up. I ended up borrowing a backup keyboard from storage. The next day, my keyboard turned up. A few days pass and everything is fine. Then the weekend comes and on Monday, lo and behold, my stapler, my keyboard and mouse, and my work binder are all cake. Cake. The stapler didn't even look like a stapler, and the cake work binder was pitiful. At this point, I lost my shit. I stood up and almost screamed in an otherwise mostly quiet office, mind you. Who the keeps replacing my things with cake? It was all caps. I had to do it like that. That wasn't my, well, maybe it was a little bit of my interpretation. My mate burst into tears. I picked up the cake stapler, walked over to him and chucked it at his feet. He looked defeated at that, like I had wasted good cake. Everything else, I had just sat in the break room for people to eat. But no, the time for eating cake has passed. I felt like I was going mental. My mate finally fessed up and told me it was our coworker, Serena, fake name, female 38, who had been making the cake and that the whole office was in on it. My boss had a conversation with me later that day about my outburst, although she understood given the circumstances. Even she was aware of the pranks. I think it was justified, though. It was like cake inception. Do you think my outburst is justified? Am I the astronaut here, or are my coworkers? I mean, as long as my stuff wasn't missing, like I could still find it again, but I also had that item but made of cake, I think I'd be okay. I think I'd be okay. But that's me. They knew. I think it all comes down to like how early did OP indicate that there was a problem with this? Let's go back a little bit and see. Okay, so the first interaction with it, the mouse, the computer mouse was replaced with cake. He said, hilarious. I'm pretty much already over it at this point, but I gave my mate props for the effort. So didn't issue any kind of don't freaking do this vibe at that point. The following week, they did the same, but with the keyboard. OP was frustrated. Okay, at that point. So the second time it happened, frustration was issued, and it should have stopped at that point. And then a few days pass, and then, okay, it was right after the one time where frustration was issued that they went all out, and that's when OP lost his shit. I think the frustration is enough of a boundary to be like, okay, enough, guys, don't freaking do this, without explicitly coming out and saying, don't freaking do this. What do you guys think? Is it enough of a boundary to show frustration? 3 times is too much. It was 3 times, yeah. No, PB and Smelly, there was no like explicit, okay, stop freaking doing this, guys. Brissa, I don't know what kind of workplace that is and what kind of work they should consider too. Yeah. You read the room. To me, yeah, I've seen a lot of comments about if the person being pranked isn't laughing, it's not funny. And that's the first time, he thought it was at least funny enough and gave his mate props. Second time, it wasn't funny anymore, and he was visibly frustrated. So I think at that point, it is okay. It's not funny anymore. Don't keep pushing. Obviously, don't keep pushing. But they tried to go back to the funny well too many times. It was like a Will Ferrell movie streak. At some point, it's just too much of the same thing. And that's what they did. They crossed a boundary. I think his issuance of frustration without explicitly speaking up, he shouldn't have to explicitly speak up. It's a workplace, number one, and he was frustrated the second time it happened, which should be enough to prevent this from happening further. So they should definitely not have done what they did. But the question is, am I the astronaut for losing my shit on my coworkers after they kept replacing items in my office with cake? I'm going NTA. I'm going NTA here. Because he was frustrated the second time, they should have known not to do it again. And instead of backing off, they did it more. They tripled down on what they were doing by doing 3 items in that third pass here. So they tripled down. At that point, it's like, okay, if they're tripling down, his reaction is tripling down too. So he goes from frustration to losing his shit. And I think the escalation was mirrored, in my opinion here. None of this should have happened in a workplace in the first place, but Angel says, everybody sucks here throwing things at people isn't okay. I don't think he threw anything at anybody. I think he said he tossed it at his feet. Let me look though. Because if he tossed it at his feet, that I take to mean as like threw it at the ground in front of his feet. Normally tossing something at their feet is like down toward their feet, not throwing it at someone. Chucked it at his feet. It could be thrown at. Could be. I'm going to stick to my NTA, though. Yeah, what about the boss? The boss being in on it and letting the third one happen shouldn't have happened either. I think that the entire office sucks for taking it the third time. And whoever was the main instigator was like, no, it'll be fine. Let's do it. Come on, guys. We need to do it again. But this time, triple down. They're probably the ultimate asshole here. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with a really shitty story for you, apparently. This one is from the AITA subreddit and is titled, Am I the astronaut for telling my husband where he is and isn't allowed to poo? It is shitty. Get out your plungers. It's about to get shitty. Ideally, this will be short and sweet, says everyone when they sit down on the throne. My husband, 33 male, who will be referred to as Tyler, and I, 27 female, has been together nearly 8 years. We share a sizable home that has 5 bathrooms, each equipped with a functional toilet. Yes, that's a lot of thrones in one room. It's a Game of Thrones. Tell him where he can. Okay, yeah. In our master bedroom, there are 2 toilets, each having its own lockable door. Hold up. Master bedroom, 2 toilets in the master bath, each with its own lockable door. This is like your dream bougie bathroom to have a door that's locked off. So like I get kicked to the other side of the house right now. True. It is very much true. There are two doors. You have to have two doors shut between.
Read the story.
Okay, I'll read the story. One of those toilets is mine and only mine, and the other is strictly his. Tyler has had IBS for his entire life, and if any of you don't know, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, is an intestinal disorder that causes pretty nasty poos. I'm talking like explosions that one may say destroy a toilet. This has never been a problem until we moved into this home. One of the bathrooms is located directly off the living room. We frequently have sitters come and go to care for our 3-year-old son, so that particular bathroom is used by them and whomever is over, a guest bathroom of sorts. I specifically asked that Tyler only poo in his designated toilet in our master bathroom. I'm so tired of cleaning other toilets after his explosions. Tyler has never had to clean the toilets and never does. If I pester him, he would. It's not that he doesn't help with chores. He's very helpful in other regards, but he never cleans up right after his poos. When I go in there right after, the toilet, TMI, is coated, splattered, and straight up nasty. He still frequently uses the toilet off the living room to poo, causing nasty stank and toilet destruction. I have to clean it constantly, and when I ask him to use his toilet to poo, he will say he doesn't want to argue or I'm looking to pick a fight. This has been an issue now for months with no resolve. I have brought this up multiple times. I want to know, am I the astronaut? Why can't he use his toilet for poos? I don't care if he pees downstairs. Edit below. Here we go. Here's the edit. To clarify, I'm not saying he has to use only his toilet. What I mean is, I obviously prefer that he uses his toilet, but he can use the toilet downstairs if he cleans up after himself, but he does not. He doesn't have to clean his own personal toilet after each use. When I ask him to clean up after he poos downstairs, he claims he doesn't know where the cleaner is, although it is very obviously next to the toilet. I'd like a clean toilet downstairs for guests to use as well here. Let's bring her up for some feedback here, ladies and gentlemen. Can we get some feedback? Candy Thunder.
So when I read this story, it's like the most marriage thing until I got to the part where he doesn't clean up after himself because that's just gross. But I said that I have known in my life, like not like all like friends or anything, but I've known 3 different couples whose partner had shitty, pun intended, bathroom habits. And those people are no longer married. All 3 of them have gotten divorced. And I know for a fact that all 3 of these people had terrible bathroom etiquette, like splatter, rollies, whatever you want to say. So I'm not saying a correlation, but I'm not saying there's not a correlation between the 2. Second order of business, clean the toilet. If you're going to dirty it up, if you're going to leave shit everywhere, like you're just literally saying, you're looking at that and going, yeah, someone else will get that, even though that came out of my body. That is not your wife's job. Like, that is not your wife's job. You turn around, do whatever you have to do. You hunt down the cleaner and you clean a toilet. It's your shit. This man has the cleanest bathroom habits. And I know you're not surprised by this if you've seen his like beard upkeep video, but he has the cleanest bathroom habits.
Y'all, that's because I don't poop.
Oh, he poops. Everybody poops.
Everybody poops.
I'm saying that this is enough to make you I would not want to be intimate with somebody who left a mess for me to clean up. If I'm constantly having to clean up your shit, you're going to walk into a dead bedroom because I don't want to be a part of it. Like you put me in the spot to be your mom, then we're no longer going to be married. And I feel like that's just facts because you can only clean up so much shit before you're done cleaning up shit, literally.
Yeah. Here's my deal. I don't give a shitty who you are. Male, female, child, elderly. You clean up after yourself. I have a very, very firm leave no trace policy. You got to treat the bathroom like the Boy Scouts do, right? Like leave no trace. Whatever you at least have to leave it as good as the way it was, if not better. There's no reason at all that you should be leaving any trace that you were even there. It's not difficult to do. And somebody was asking about what do you mean by butt dust or butt rollies? Hashtag not my butt dust, by the way. But the rollies are like whenever you're wiping the little bits of toilet paper that like come off, and then they're like little rolled up pieces or balls on the back of the toilet. On the back of the toilet.
Oh my God, you guys, we had somebody that worked here that left those on the toilet, and it is the grossest thing ever. Also, that is one of the people that I'm referring to.
Hashtag not my butt dust.
Hashtag he's not married anymore.
Booty crumbs. There you go. That's pretty good.
Toilet lint.
Booty crumbs, toilet lint. Like, whatever you call it.
Everybody has their own stuff.
Whatever you call it, it doesn't.
Oh my gosh.
Leave no trace. Leave no trace. Clean up after yourself. It is not difficult. I'm like 10 seconds max after you're done. That's all it takes. The question was, am I the astronaut for telling my husband where he is and isn't allowed to poo?
I don't think she's doing that.
I think the ire is misplaced, though. And yeah, well, since she titled this thing, so she gave it the title, and then later on said, I'm not telling him where he can and can't. I'd say I prefer, but I think she might actually be telling him because that was her title, and then she had to walk it back.
She should. If you had your own toilet in your house, why would you not choose to go in that specific toilet? Be like, that's my throne. That's where I go. That's where I do my stuff. Like, wouldn't that be where you want to go? Like, aren't you comfortable in that toilet?
But like many have pointed out here, if he has IBS, he may not have time. He may not have time to be able to make it there. So really, where is not the issue. It is what happens after that is the issue. Him not cleaning up. And I would say,
how can you look at what you've done and be like, yeah, that's fine? How? I don't understand it. My brain cannot wrap around that. Like, if you've done something to make a mess, how can you look at it and just be like, yeah, my wife will get that? Yeah.
I think she probably needs to reset her focus to the cleaning afterward thing and stick with that because where is not the real issue.
Maybe let your guest use a different bathroom and be like, and leave a sign at the door that says, when my husband cleans this bathroom, it'll be available again. I don't know. I don't know. Like, what would you do if he refuses to clean it? Like, would you? I couldn't just let it sit there dirty. Like, it would. I'd clean it and contact an attorney. That's what I would do.
I think if you stick to the clean it angle hard enough, he'll eventually figure it out. He will figure it out. And if you explain in vivid detail how big of a deal this is for you, I feel he's not getting the message right now. If you explain how big the cleaning is, right now he's thinking it's where, right? And you've mentioned cleaning, but it's like, I don't know where the cleaning stuff is.
Right.
Okay. So you can go through a little educational seminar on that and be like, here's where the cleaning stuff is. It never moves.
Pain creates change.
You cannot use that again, or print out the little instructional sheet for like right above the toilet paper or something and be like, here's how you clean up after you go poop.
Like the sanitizing like wipes. They're not like flushable wipes, but like sanitizing like Clorox wipes on the
for
back
cleaning
the back of the toilet in case like when we had an office upstairs, we only had one bathroom, so it was a much bigger deal. But now that we're down here, there's a men and women's, and you have to prove there's 2 women in the office, so we are very picky and choosy if we would let one of the guys go into our bathroom. Mm-hmm. You have to prove that you have good bathroom habits to go into the women's
Leave no trace. Yes. Leave no trace. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder again with yet another Reddit story for you. This one comes from the AITA subreddit and is titled, Am I the Astronaut for Telling My Friend It's Not My Problem She Married a Useless Man? It's harsh. I, 32 female, am a single mother of 2 kids, 6 male and 5 female. I am a single mother by choice. My kids are donor conceived. I am lucky enough to have a job, French teacher in a private school, and a paid-off house, parents' life insurance, and inheritance. Before I had either of my kids, I made sure to have a year's living expenses saved. Then I would take a sabbatical to recover from birth, as well as bond with my kids. While on sabbatical, I still tutor some kids for some extra income. My friend, 34 female, just had a baby 2 months ago. She is the breadwinner in her household, and her husband has been unemployed since he was laid off during COVID. It was great to be pregnant at the same time, as well as having a friend with a newborn, but it has turned sour. She has been saying how jealous she is of me being able to take a whole year off from work, how she would have loved to not worry about losing their home, how she doesn't even have a couple $100s in her savings account, let alone a whole year's worth of living expenses. I usually ignore it or brush it off because I kind of can understand the stress she's under. Well, starting about 10 days ago, she started hinting at not being able to afford daycare, and any mention of her husband taking care of their kid is brushed off. And then she started remarking on how much free time I must have, which I deflected by saying truthfully that being a single mom to a baby and a small kid left me no free time actually. Then last night she came out with it and asked if I could do her a favor and watch her kid while she's at work. I was firm but polite when I said that I couldn't, that I am not capable of watching 2 kids under 6 months. She started almost begging me, saying she couldn't afford daycare, and if she was not back at work, she would lose her job and they would end up homeless. I again brought up her husband, and she said that he was not good with kids and isn't capable of taking care of her kid. I kept saying no, and she kept pushing it until it escalated to her calling me heartless and me telling her that it's not my problem that she chose to have a kid with a useless man. Now she blocked me, and I am feeling very guilty about what I said, and I'm feeling like an asshole. The question was, am I the astronaut for telling my friend it's not my problem she married a useless man? This got very clear, like the title clarified itself at the very end of the story for me, because the repeated problem here is that hubby is either unwilling or truly unable to watch their baby. That's the problem. The problem is not like he doesn't have a job, and I understand, like, you know, getting back into the workforce after being laid off could take a lot of time, and I'm sure that's a difficult time for him. However, you have a family, and if you're not working, you should be able to watch your kids. The fact that he's not capable, she says he's not capable, which to me, well, we don't know the full extent of why or how he's incapable there, but he should be an option before asking a friend to do it for free. He should be an option. He should want to watch his kid. That's more importantly the issue for me. He should want to do this. And she kept pushing. Okay, so it's not like OP just came out with it the first time that she brought this up, wanting her to watch her kid for free. It was the repeated pushing and pushing and pushing. Here, this is it right here. I kept saying no, and she kept pushing until it escalated to her calling me heartless and me telling her it's not my problem that she chose to have a kid with a useless man. It was escalation that was brought on and prompted by the friend. OP, NTA. NTA. Could have been said different. Maybe, but I think if they're close enough friends as it sounds like they are, the friend needs to experience enough pain with the realization of the statement that you are with someone who isn't even an option to you to watch your own child with this person. You're with someone who can't care for their own children. This is a problem. Unless there's some kind of medical reason or psychological reason, well, it's not possible. There could be. There could be a reason. It sure seems like that would have been noted here. So I'm assuming that's not an issue right now. If it is, yeah, explains a lot. But OP keeps bringing up the hubby, and the friend keeps deflecting it and just saying that he's not good with kids and isn't capable of taking care of her kid. Weaponized incompetence. That's a likely it's a likely scenario. This guy also doesn't know where the cleaning stuff is for the toilet. He doesn't know. Dad, if you can't watch the kid, you need to be the one out there working. If not both of you, if you're both going to be working, that's a different option. But if you're not, then I feel like as a parent, have to be available to care for your own children. Elizabeth Bowman, yeah, the fact that she said her kid and not our kid, I thought that as well. But she kept saying, he isn't capable of taking care of her kid. That's OP's translation. I don't know. There's not a quotation mark around it, so I can't say that she said her kid. I'm NTA with her because I think the friend needed the shock to understand that how is your husband helping you right now? Why are you coming to me before coming to your husband? Whose child this is? That's his child. He has a responsibility to watch that child. I have a responsibility to my own child. You're willing to split my focus with 2 children rather than ask him to watch 1. That's messed up. Do you understand how messed up that is, friend? Oh yeah, and I guess doing so and saying what she said more firmly asserted her boundaries. If she played it softer, the boundaries wouldn't have been asserted as firmly. That's a rough situation all around. I mean, I feel bad for both of them, but hubby's got to step it up somehow. Somehow. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with yet another Reddit story for you. This one is from the AITA subreddit and is titled, Will I Be the Astronaut for Telling My Little Sister She Can't Remove Me from My Wedding Photo and Photoshop Herself into my place? The my wedding photo part of this really makes it a lot worse, doesn't it? My little sister, 28 female, is recently engaged. I, 30 female, got married about 6 years ago. I've since divorced and am engaged again. Our mom died 5 years ago, shortly after my wedding. At my wedding 6 years ago, the photographer took a photo of my mom fastening a necklace around my neck. My little sister has told multiple people that when she gets married, she plans to hire someone with graphic design skills to remove me from that photo and Photoshop herself in my place. So far, I've said nothing, but I've always felt hurt by that idea, and now that she is actually planning a wedding, I'm wondering if I should put my foot down. At the same time, I don't want to add to her pain either. Background on prioritizing her feelings once to leading up to this point. Very shortly after our mom died, all of my sisters, including my older married sisters, expressed that they wanted our mom's engagement ring. As my little sister didn't get to have our mom at her wedding and the rest of us did get that experience, I urged my dad to hang on to our mom's engagement ring for our little sister for when she eventually were to get engaged. Ultimately, I was successful in advocating for her to inherit our mom's ring. Once engaged, she decided to reset the ring so the only part of it that remains is the central diamond. It is a completely different design now and is unrecognizable. We are all a bit miffed by that, but what's done is done. Next, we both wanted to use our mom's wedding dress in our upcoming weddings, but she plans to alter it beyond recognition as it was a long-sleeve A-line dress and she wants a strapless mermaid-style dress. I proposed that we each wear it, but not make significant alterations, but she brought up that I'm the only one who didn't get to have mom at her wedding, and I do feel for her, so I dropped my bid to wear the dress. But at this point, I feel inclined to draw the line at removing me from my own photo with my mom. Yes, I did get to have my mom at my first wedding. I don't have her at my wedding to the person I'll be spending the rest of my life with, so I'm feeling some sadness there too. If someone is going to be photoshopping someone out of that picture, I feel like it should be me photoshopping my 24-year-old self for my 31-year-old self. She also has a ton of photos with our mom that she could use for this purpose instead, as well as photos from our mom's solo that no one would need to be removed from. Obviously, I can't force her to not do as she pleases with the photo, but will I be the astronaut if I tell her I'm not okay with that and that she doesn't have my permission or blessing to remove me from my wedding photo with my mom? Edited to add, many people suggesting lawsuits, so I want to clarify that no, I would not sue over this. I love my sister and don't want to add to her grief. I'm only grappling with whether or not it's worth to ask her not to use my photo in this way. There is a little bit of an update here, but let's talk about it for a moment. Candy Thunder says, I don't think I would care if my sister photoshopped me out so she could have her own copy. I think there's going to be, I understand you would empathize for your sister and you would want her to have something. I think it's the context of that same younger sister getting the benefit of the things that she had left behind to this point and not respecting them to the level that she thinks they should be respected to. So it's almost like I understand and I feel for you, but you've already abused this power, so I'm not going to let you employ it a third time. But I mean, what's the big deal? Who's going to have the picture? The sister? She's going to have it on her own stuff, and how it's not going to harm OP.
No, I don't think the picture is too far. I think the picture is like, if I had that picture of myself, I would have no hesitation offering my sister. I would get it done for her if that's what she wanted. But I think she is taking it too far with the dress and the ring and the picture. I think you're right. She is abusing what she missed out on. But the picture to me is like really not that big of a deal. But that's just my opinion.
Yeah, it's not that big of a deal to us. It is to OP, obviously. And you're not an asshole for feeling how you're feeling. I don't think you can be. It's what you do with those, right? So at this point, I think it is a matter of you just basically saying, am I going to be an asshole if and when I explain how I feel to my younger sister? I think If you explain how you feel to your younger sister, you are absolutely not the asshole for doing that. I think you're not asking her not to do it. You're just telling her how you feel about it. And I think that's perfectly fine and understandable. And hopefully she respects that. She might counter with telling you how she feels, and then it's a stalemate. And then she probably does it anyway and knows that you disapprove and doesn't really care. Given the previous behavior, I would expect that to be a highly possible route. So as long as you're prepared for what happens from there and it's not going to destroy your soul, cool. Tell her how you feel. At least let her understand, hopefully, more so the gravity of the situation. Because right now, it doesn't seem like she understands the gravity of any of the situations with the previous articles. Yeah, darling, the original is not going to be hurt with a digital change. It's going to be a duplication. The original will still be there. It's not going to do any harm to OP. It's just like a third insult to her. I think that's what it feels like. A third insult to something that is a keepsake from their mom. Allison, yeah, the change to the ring and the dress, I think, is what set the tone for OP having the problem with this. And at this point, it's just you wanting to explain your feelings. Go ahead. I mean, you have already acknowledged that you can't control her and she may still go through with it, but you can tell her it's a big deal to you and you understand it may not be to her. It's not to us. It wouldn't be a big deal to us, but you're allowed to feel how you feel. All right, let's dive into the update here. Update. I pulled from the thoughtful suggestions on this thread and called my little sister this afternoon and asked if we could talk about her plans with the photo. I asked, instead of switching us out of my wedding photo, if she would be open to instead her and I recreating that image at her wedding, then editing our mom into that photo in my place. I shared a little about how I feel, that incorporating our mom into her wedding day is something I fully support and understand, but that seeing myself removed from that moment with my mom at my wedding and from that hotel room where my dog, who has also since passed, is looking on in the background of the photo would be painful to look at. She said she hadn't thought about that and that she loves the idea of adding mom into a photo on her wedding day instead of putting herself in my place in that photo from mine. So thank you to those who suggested that. It accomplishes her goal but seems to feel better to us both. Plus, I'm the same height as our mom while she's a bit taller, so using me as a stand-in for mom might be easier to work with as far as angles for the editor. That led to the general conversation of how we both want to find ways to honor our mom at her upcoming weddings, which led to the dress topic. She mentioned that she's been feeling torn about the dress because she wants to wear it because it was mom's but doesn't like the style. And with how costly such significant alterations will be, she's realized that a new dress would cost less. So I reiterated my interest in the dress and used an additional idea from this thread to suggest that she buys the dress she wants, but does some of her bridal portraits in our mom's unaltered dress. She seemed to like that idea and said that she just wants to make sure she finds her dream dress before she commits to going that direction. She has some appointments scheduled at bridal boutiques this weekend. I'm not going to die on that hill if she decides to go dress alteration route, so we'll just have to see on that one. I really like the ideas people shared here about commissioning an artist to create a painting, including our mom and several other loved ones who've recently lost. It's been a brutal few years in our family, and a wedding photo for her, so I'm going to figure out something along those lines for a wedding gift. Thank you to those who shared your perspective and ideas, which I wasn't expecting, in a compassionate way. It was very helpful. And to the people who commented just to shame me for getting remarried after a divorce, not so helpful. Hope your lives continue to be perfect, and you never know the struggle of trying to extract yourselves from a terrible situation. Oof. Wowza. Yeah, people are the worst. Wow. Okay. So OP did one better. Did one better than explaining feelings, actually offered alternatives, offered solutions. And I think that's the ultimate goal, right? If you can not just explain your feelings, but then say, here's an idea, would you be open to? Then it's actionable. Then you're not putting the work of trying to come up with a workaround for not offending your feelings onto the person that you're talking to. If you can offer that turnkey solution, it's as easy as possible to avoid the pain that you're trying to get away from. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder once again with another Reddit story. This one is from AITA and is titled, Will I Be the Astronaut If I Bought a Car My Wife Couldn't Drive? I need to buy a new car, and I would love to have a manual transmission. It's my one non-negotiable. I grew up driving a manual and I miss it deeply. All of my cars have been inherited, so I've never had a say in my car's features or specs. This will be the first car that I purchased for myself. Finally, I'm a car guy. I enjoy driving and I've always wanted a sporty car, but also have it fit my needs. My wife is 7 months pregnant and bought herself a new midsize SUV last year with her own money. She views cars as a way of getting from A to B with practical and comfort. Note, we have to park our cars back to front in our gravel driveway, with one car being in the garage. I will widen the driveway, which I can do in a weekend, so we can park our cars side by side. We have mostly separate finances, but have a joint CC and checking account, which we both contribute to monthly. The rest is our personal money that we keep in our personal bank account, including separate savings and separate investments. I'm paying the down payment and the monthly payments on the new car, so I feel the decision is mine, but happy to listen to my wife's thoughts, reciprocation from her car purchase. When I started the car buying process, I went with sport compacts, which are in my budget based on prior discussions. The car has to be a daily commuter for me, allowing me to take the kids to and from daycare and quick local trips. My wife thinks these cars are too small and cannot fit our needs with the baby and a potential second child. She says there's not enough space for our kids' stuff. There is. And the back seats won't fit two backward-facing car seats. They will. I've tried to show her my research, but she refused to watch the videos or read the articles that I bookmarked. Her main sticking point is she won't be able to drive it because it's a manual. She's concerned that she won't be able to drive it when she'll need to in an emergency. I told her I was happy to teach her manual, but at first she flat out refused to learn. Now she says that she'll learn, but gives an excuse of how we'll be too busy. I said if it's that important she drives the car, her mom can stay for a weekend to watch the baby and we can take a day for her to learn. Again, she said she won't have time. Every time we discuss it, she accuses me of ignoring our family and that she needs to be able to drive the car. I say she's creating a false dichotomy, and the car that I want can fit our needs. I also argue that her car can be the big family car for trips or hauling, and my car can be for easy parking during city trips or sports events. Note, I do not drink, so I will always be able to drive. We've had many arguments over this. The most recent resulted in her giving me the cold shoulder for 2 days. I am at my wit's end and ready to buy without her blessing. Will I be the astronaut if I ignored my wife's objections and got the car that I wanted? Edit! I'm specifically looking at a Honda Civic Si. We live within walking distance of urgent care, CVS, and a grocery store. Our neighbor is a NICU nurse if shit really hits the fan, and we do babysit the father-in-law's SUV. He works and lives abroad, which we use on occasion, but we don't know when he'll be returning, so a third car is not an option for now. Edit 2, classic rip my inbox. After parsing through this thread, there are separate issues at play that I've sorted out, and here's what I've gathered. 1, I will be the astronaut for buying a car my wife can't drive without her blessing. Yes, I fully acknowledge my timing of this is awful. I will postpone the purchase until after the baby arrives, and I'll get an automatic to ensure we both drive the car. 2, I'm not an asshole for wanting a manual car, and the model of car I want is reasonable. My wife could learn eventually, but that's her choice. Again, my timing is terrible, which makes me the a-hole, so I'm going to get my fun car in a few years' time. Clarifying point, I don't want an SUV. They're more expensive, and I would much prefer driving a car that's not high up. I also think automotive companies have shoved a narrative down Americans' throats that SUVs are the only family-friendly option, which is false. Literally, just look at the rest of the world. Well. So the question was, will I be the astronaut if I bought a car my wife couldn't drive? You know what, Candy Thunder? I know that you're not scheduled for feedback here, but I really want to hear your thoughts on this story. Would you mind coming up and talking with us for a moment? You don't have any thoughts about this? How so? She said, I'll explain. I'll explain. I'm like, oh.
I'll explain why I don't have thoughts. I think that he should just get whatever car he wants, because I don't like. We had another story about a woman who wanted a Porsche because, like, a Porsche SUV, because that's what she had always seen, like, as achieving. She's made it. That's where she's at. That's the car. And I don't personally like care that much about cars. And I don't know how to drive a stick, or what is it? Manual?
Manual.
Okay. I don't know how to drive that. I've tried multiple times, and I could get it, but I wasn't great. And he bought a manual because that's what he wanted. And we were trading in my car after we had gotten an SUV. And I just don't care. Like, I'm not going to drive it. I don't think there would ever be a point where you would take my car and leave me with that because you know that I couldn't drive it. So I think they would just have to make sure that that is what happens in this case. But I don't know that I care enough about what car I drive to like actually give some kind of healthy feedback here. It's like, just do what you want to do. I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you came up and shared that, because it sparked some new thoughts for me. And I will say this, as long as the manual car that you're wanting is a family-friendly car and you can fit 2 kids in the back of that, as long as it's one of the 4-door Civics, you can do that. You've done your research to prove that this is a grocery getter as well. It's a Honda Civic Si. It's not a freaking Ferrari. It is not a Corvette. It is not something that is not a daily commuter kind of car. That was similar to my situation. It was a Subaru WRX, and it was a grocery getter. The back seats have tons of room. The trunk space has tons of room.
It's a huge trunk.
It is really a grocery getter. Like it is, it's sporty, but it is not without its practical functions here. Now, I will say it was a similar situation where yes, she can't drive a manual. So if she needed to drive the Subi, she couldn't. And I will say, we went into this knowing that you couldn't drive it, and just accepted that and thought it won't be an issue. There have been several times where like our car situation will get complicated or got complicated because I couldn't leave the manual behind. You know what I mean?
If we had to pick it up from somewhere, or
if we had to pick it up from somewhere, or if like I needed to transport more kids or use the SUV, leaving that manual behind wasn't an option. So I'd say you have to, OP, you're accepting some risk here as well, because you know that you could find yourself in a position where this is a complication. So I would really try to make sure that you're proactively like getting her to agree to that training, because it's not enough to say that she could do it. She's got to be willing to do it for you to know that you at least have a solution to hedge against that risk later on.
I will say that I don't think, and this is just me and my experience being pregnant, at 7 months pregnant, like I was like full baby blinders focus. I did not want to learn something new that I would need to remember for the rest of my life. Pregnancy brain is a very real thing. You find yourself forgetting like a lot of stuff. So I don't know that teaching your wife something while she's she's in her last trimester, I don't know that it would be the best time to learn something new. And maybe other people have different experiences, but for me, it was like, I was very hyper focused on growing the baby and prepping for the baby and feeling overwhelmed. You know, you only have 2 months left, like you're on the downhill slope. So I do think me personally that I would want to learn how to drive a manual, because I think that's something that's important. And I think I have the concept, I understand it, like I get it. Not great.
Once she got it, she would be hooked.
I think that it would be great, but my dad tried to teach me, my brother tried to teach me, Dustin tried to teach me. I get too distracted, and then it just does not.
If it became a frequent enough or severe enough problem, we would do that. Like that's how we would solve it, by doing that though.
If I needed to learn how to drive it, I would figure out how to drive the damn car.
And for them right now, they're babysitting father-in-law's SUV, so they don't know when he's going to come back. However, that does buy them some time. It does buy them some time. So
cars theoretically, if he got this car.
They don't know when the third will not be available, but I mean, it's at least it's available right now.
Right.
So that at least puts a Band-Aid on it. So it gives you a little bit more time. It seems like I don't know. It's a tough situation. My gut says do it. You'll be able to teach her whenever she's willing to learn, and the being willing to learn is going to be on her. So the risk of it being a problem really weighs on when she finally agrees to learn. Hey there, it's Dusty Thunder with yet another Reddit story for you. This one is from the AITA subreddit and is titled, "Am I the Astronaut for telling my wife that she should have included my daughter in her mother-daughter trip?" I, 44 male, have 2 children, 18 male, 16 female. My ex-wife abandoned the family when my daughter was still a baby. Wowza. I recently married a woman, 42 female, with 3 kids, 17 female, 14 female, and 13 male. Their father is still involved in all their lives. All of our kids are still in high school, though my son is set to graduate soon. They recently had their spring break. During spring break, my wife took her 2 girls to a major city near us for a mommy-daughter day. They ate, went to a spa, etc. Before they went, I suggested to her that she should include my daughter, but she said no, as this was a yearly tradition with just her girls. Hold up, how long have they been together? It says recently married. Okay. While she was gone, I took my kids and her son out for bowling and mini golf. After her trip with her girls was over, the next day she took her son out for a Mother's Sunday, where she took him out to see whatever movie he wanted. She and I have been arguing ever since about how she excluded my daughter from her mommy-daughter day. I think it was cruel. My daughter grew up without a mother, and I know it would have meant a lot to her to be included. But my wife says that she was just carrying on old traditions of spending time with just her girls, then spending time with just her son, and that she'd be happy to start a new tradition with my daughter, but that it needed to be a different thing. That's important. She also said, I didn't bring your son along with my mother's son time with my son. Why aren't you making an issue out of that? I told her that it was different, that my daughter really needed girl time, and that excluding her was hurtful. I still think she should have invited my daughter along, that she should have made a new part of the tradition. Am I the astronaut? Well, she's willing to make a new tradition. He's wanting her to make an alteration to the existing tradition. No, you would never exclude her. But the fact that she offered to create a new tradition with just her. Edit, to be clear, I don't care about people voting that I'm the asshole. That's why I came here, and everyone is entitled to their opinions. I just don't think it's right to downvote me when I answer a question honestly. The fact that she offered a solution does mean something to me here. She says that she would be willing to do that. Here's where I think she screwed up. I do think it would be good for her to do a one-on-one time. That way she doesn't do anything to alter what she has with her current girls. And they may have beef with stepdaughter if they feel like she's encroaching on their time. However, doing that mommy-daughter day with just those 2 before having something set up that was independent and individual with stepdaughter is where she up big, because there's nothing from preventing the stepdaughter here from feeling excluded. It would only be after the fact that she would be pitching something that was with just her. And at that point, it's like a pity outing. That's what it's going to appear to be to her. Now, in potentially in her defense, we don't know that OP's daughter is offended by this. We only know that OP is offended by this on her behalf. There hasn't been a conversation or word from her about how she feels about it. OP has made assumptions about how she would feel. He says, I know she would. And that's fine. However, I feel like there are multiple different things that should happen here. He's getting offended on someone else's behalf without talking to her about how she feels about it. That's a screw up. But OP's wife taking the other girls out without having a prior arrangement with OP or with his daughter lends to feeling excluded too. There were multiple ups here. I think this is really an ESH. The communication breakdown is here. They say this is, OP said they recently got married. This may be a year 1 communication thing, but prior communication with this, like a well laid out plan, a thoughtful plan that takes everyone's feelings into consideration within this blended family would have been ideal. That's not what happened. There's a lot of after the fact bitching going on. Both parties are just reactive now. I think this whole thing could have been handled differently, and I think you both suck for it. Recently married, accidentally overlooked. Yeah, I mean, it would be great to hear how the daughter feels, because ultimately this is about her, and we don't have any idea how she feels. OP's assuming, and we could assume along with OP. And I'm sure if she noticed that they went without her, I'm sure she feels something about that. What level of offense gets taken to it is unknown. And OP's wife should have figured that out ahead of time and pitched an independent thing ahead of time. She up there, and I think probably needs to do a little bit of work to make up for that. Candy Thunder, did they not talk about how to integrate a blended family before marrying? I'm so confused. I don't think most people do, Candy Thunder. Question for you. Here's an unofficial poll as we wrap up here. Those of you in blended relationships or blended families who are now married, did you have a conversation? I guess blended relationship makes work. A blended relationship works because you have to start blending them at some point prior to marriage. Did you talk about it? Yes, always. Yes. Demon Peepers, no. Ellen, we didn't talk about it, but we figured it out. I mean, I think you talk about it as you go, as you figure things out. And maybe this is their first real complication. Included the kids and everything. There was never talk about it. Brittany, I can say for a fact that my mother did not. That's probably where, yeah, you make a good point there. Did they not talk about like how this is going to go and try to communicate frequently about that? This is probably a year one communication problem where they're discovering that there are problems that they need to solve for the relationship to endure and to do so healthily for their entire family. They got to learn how to problem solve right now. And it's a walk through the fire year one thing. This is one of them. And it'd be great if you had that communication ahead of time, but it takes a lot of foresight that a lot of people don't have. Most people don't have. So you have to hit the problem first to come up with a solution. And that's not uncommon, I guess. Candy Thunderbolt, once you get married, traditions change. I would extend the invite to SD and let her decide. That would have been smart. I mean, that probably would have been the most ideal solution there. At minimum, having a conversation about including her somehow, whether it be with that or independent, and giving her the choice, like you said, is the smartest thing she could have done. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. But giving them the choice ahead of time is always the way to go. Always. Always. Hey, Dusty Thunder here, and I wanted to thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that content, and if you did, please make sure to like, subscribe, and most importantly, share. Also, you can find swag and so much more at dusty-thunder.com, and you'll find even more content on all of our platforms. We're on TikTok, YouTube. We now have an official Facebook page that we'll be posting stories to as well. We have podcasts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts and so much more. You can see all of our content platforms on Linktree, which is linked in my bio. Engage with us wherever you're enjoying content and do your best to avoid the Askonauts today. Thanks again.